Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody with
And I'm Wajahat Ali.
my fave, Wajahat Ali. Before we dive into anything, I must tell a brief story, which is that earlier this morning I took an Uber home, and my Uber driver, black gentleman, he's like, "Oh, I thought with your luggage that you were going to the airport." And I was like, "No, I'm just going back home, having been taking care of my girlfriend who had surgery. And I'm just going home to like basically switch over my stuff and then head back." But nonetheless, he's like, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "Thank goodness I'm not going to the airport because of the TSA issues right now." We spent then the next 40 minutes talking about Donald Trump. And this man knew everything inside and out about the race in Texas, Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, and voter suppression. He's like, what happened to Merrick Garland and Joe Biden? Why couldn't they handle this in the first 2 years of Biden's presidency? Do you blame Biden and Merrick Garland for this as well as the Democrats? He's like, he told me about a couple of black men that are his friends that are Trumpers. And the reason why they voted for Donald Trump is because they said, "Oh, he's going to make us rich." And he's like, "How? And how is that working out for you?" Let me fast forward. He picked up a Puerto Rican woman from Staten Island, and she said that she's like, "I used to like Trump and I turned away." And he's like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she's like, "Yeah, because he was going to do something about the Venezuelans."
Wow.
He's like, the reasons that people have for voting for Donald Trump. And he's like, and I'm talking about black people, I'm talking about brown people. He's like, is insane. And he's just like, the thing about Donald Trump is that you repeat things over and over and over again,
Right.
and people believe them.
Right.
And he's like, he's like, when I was talking to my friends, black men, "Why couldn't you vote for Kamala Harris?" "Well, she did this, that, and the other thing." And he's like, "And where did you get that information?" And they're like, "The internet." And he's like, "Because the internet tells the truth all the time." And so I will say this, it wasn't, and he said to me as we were closing, he's like, "But there's some good news." And I said, "What's the good news?" And he's like, "Look," he goes, "if people had voted for Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris had won," he goes, "then America would have gone back to sleep." And he's like, "And frankly, now we are faced with the rawness, the ugliness of America, and you can't turn away." And
Wow.
he's like, and I mean, Waj, and then when we get to my place, he goes, "Can I ask you, what do you do for a living?" And I was just like, "Oh, I'm a political analyst." And he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "I can't believe," he's like, "Wait a minute." So then he turns around and he looks at me and he's like, "You do MS, don't you?" And I said, yes, I do. Every once in a while. And he's just like, "I can't believe this whole time I was talking to a political analyst." And I said, "And you just gave me a whole lot of faith that people are actually paying attention, tapped in." I said, "I do this for a living." He goes, "I drive a car." He's like, "But like, if you don't vote for yourself," he's like, "then other people are going to take control of your life." So that's my
Hey,
aside
you
this
should have
morning
you
from
should
my
have thanked him for giving you great content as well.
right. Yes.
And I always feel like Thomas Friedman journalism, where like we could write articles in the New York Times based on one conversation with a cab driver. But some of these cab drivers, if you really think about it, Uber drivers, right?
Mhm.
They have the pulse, because if
They
you
know the energy of the people. That's what he said. He said after the election, he hadn't even watched the news watch. And then, I'm sorry to interrupt, but he said, "I didn't even watch election night because I had too much fear about what was going to happen." And he goes, "You know what?" He's like, "But I woke up the next day and I was driving." And he's like, "And I could tell by the energy of the
Yep.
people in
Yep.
the city that it did not go our way." And he's like, "And then my wife would call me later." But yes, go ahead.
No, I mean, they talk to so many different people. The ones who are curious talk to people, or politically active. They ask people, they start up conversations, they listen, and then they share. And I feel like some of those individuals, even, I know you might laugh at this, but even restaurant owners, like
100%.
my local Pakistani restaurant, since 2016, I've been just like the workers, they ask me stuff, right? Like, what do you think's gonna go? And I just see their mood. They've been on point each election. They're like, this Trump guy sucks. Biden wins. This Biden guy said the economy would be better. Trump won. 2016. I don't really know. I don't trust Hillary. Trump wins. Like, I know we joke about these things, but like if you talk to the average person, if you go talk to Cabra, I do the same thing. You get a pulse of what people are saying
Yep.
during their WhatsApp conversations, what people are saying at home, what people are saying when they aren't polite, when they aren't performing. And that's how I knew also when Terry McAuliffe lost and Youngkin won, right? All my friends, all these insiders here with their ear to the ground, apparently, and who were part of the campaign, they said, man, McAuliffe's got this. It's in the bag. He's going to win by 2 points. And remember, Danielle, I'm like, I don't think so. I
Yep.
think we lose by 2 points. There's a certain vibe in the air. I've been driving
Yep.
around. I've been talking to people. I think this anti-woke, anti-DEI, anti-Toni Morrison, anti-trans, parents' choice thing, I think this has terrified suburban voters. I've talked to a lot of these parents. They're not admitting it out loud. I think a lot of these guys are going to go to the voting booth and are like, I don't want my kid to be trans. And Glenn Youngkin wins. And after Glenn Youngkin wins, the Republicans are like, we tried this out in Loudoun County. We now tried this out in the Virginia governor race. Let's spend $200 million against trans folks. This will work like gangbusters. And Democrats were stuck, had no response, thought they could just waltz into victory, and voila. Same thing happened with, let's be honest, even now what's happening, Danielle, is what I'm really afraid of. And I'll give you my taxi cab story.
Yeah. We're doing the reverse confession. This is what the driver told me. Yeah.
You had the one who's a little bit more sophisticated, aware.
Yeah.
My friend just sends this to me and he says, man, I feel like Thomas Friedman. Here I am, and I'm going to literally write to you what he wrote to us on a bunch of WhatsApps. Took an interesting Uber ride today with Richard, Puerto Rican, former union truck driver from Bronx, now retired in Virginia. Richard asked me what I thought about what's going on in the Middle East. As I shared my views, somewhat reluctantly, he goes, Trump lied to us. They control our government. As I spoke about how Israel and the United States interests diverge here, he goes, we're just goyim to them. They control everything. And then I found out that he watches Tucker Carlson. And another political analyst, who I won't name, said he was in Texas. He went to a couple of events, and he said everyone under 40, nearly every man under 40, super educated, right? Suburban, literally the type of stuff they were saying, conspiratorial, openly anti-Semitic. And this gentleman was horrified, and he goes, well, just going to do my own little survey here. Do you watch Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens? Nearly all of them under 40, Danielle, watch Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and they're not MAGA. So speaking about the pulse, I just want, I know I've been warning about this for a while. I think the national, if you will, corporate, respectable pundits and corporate class in both the Democrat and the Republican Party are missing how radicalized people are, how angry people are, how people are drifting away both from Democrats and Republicans, and they are missing the threat of the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens and even the people who are, say, Democratic Socialists. Not the same thing, folks, but like the non-traditional type of anger that is rising.
I have been, and this is why I say, like, and folks in the chat, like, they get it, and they're like, talk to real people, like know what's going on, and you get a better understanding. And this was the problem. I mean, we can go back, right, to Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. We can go back to the fact that establishment Democrats pay consultants to get focus groups to then tell them what they want to hear. They're actually, in effect, like no different in some respect to Donald Trump, who pays people to tell him what he wants to hear. And so instead of, for instance, right, Hillary Clinton, just, here's an idea. Put all the bullshit like behind you about, the crying and the homemaker shit and all of like the 30 years worth of stuff, and just come out as like who you are. Right? Like who you are, a really smart woman. And you can say, you know what? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about me. I'm a patriot. And
That's
I've
right.
been connected and had my ear to the ground of this country since I was first lady in Arkansas. And these are the things that I'll do for you. But be honest, everybody don't like me. And the thing is, you don't have to like me, but I'm going to show up for you and I'm not going to lie to you.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to sell you out. And it's just like run on the truth, run on authenticity, run on integrity. And I feel like the thing, and again, look at the difference between a Mamdani, Waj, that we always lift up versus these other folks. Mamdani was campaigning for night shift workers. He was out there doing fucking 2 a.m., 3 a.m. press conferences to talk to people. He was riding the subway. He's riding the buses. He's going into the nightclubs at night to talk to the young people. Hey, let
At
me
2 a.m. At
at
2
2
a.m. on
a.m.
election night.
Let me and we forgot what it was like to have a candidate that has energy, because we're so used to these septuagenarians and octogenarians running that when we see a 30-year-old, we're like, what are you doing at 2 a.m.? Right? Like, you out in these streets campaigning, you're at, construction sites and you're in these places. He went where the people are, which is why the people showed up for him. But where do establishment Democrats go? They go to the Iowa Fair and then they put on that fresh flannel shirt that they just purchased from from Susie at the Walmart, and then they tell their one Susie story about how she's been working out like, and they
That's
and they
actually, folks,
cosplay
Daniel,
being
literally,
normal.
that's literally what they do.
They
That's just,
do.
I
The
remember
Iowa
Hillary Clinton and Obama wore the flannel shirt when they went
They
to the
wore the
Midwest.
flannel shirt. They eat a fucking corn dog at the Iowa Fair right before the Iowa caucuses. Like, I mean, folks, this is lockstep politics. And a consultant says, "Do you want the red flannel or the blue flannel? This one makes you seem more normal." And then they go and they pretend to be normal, and it fails and it looks weird and just it doesn't fit every single time. And so, I mean, my God, take it. I would just tell like these members that are running, go take Uber drives. Go, actually, every time I go to a different city, I talk to the drivers. What's
I do
going
too.
on in this city? What's the sentiment? How do you feel? Oh, they'll tell me about the housing crisis from their perspective. They'll tell me about how far they got to drop people off and pick them up. They'll tell me about the fact, oh, I used to be able to afford stuff over here. I can't anymore. It's way expensive. They have their finger on the pulse. And it's like, these politicians have no idea how to connect with real people, so much so that a fucking rural farmer in Virginia thinks that they have more in common with Donald Trump than they do with AOC, right? Like, it is just AOC, who used to work as a bartender. They think that Donald Trump is going to do better by them than like an AOC or a Mamdani because they're brown. So I just, if you want to know where the wind is blowing, we talk about polls on here a lot. But I'm telling you, just start having conversations, because this guy was like, as he's turning onto my block, and he's like, and we didn't even get into Epstein. And I was about to say, just drive around one more time so we can get it in.
It basically, what it boils down to is the Republicans, Democrats, if we're being honest, and I'm talking about the corporate and political class, they don't talk to working class people. They haven't been working class for a long time. If they were working class, it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. They're surrounded by corporate donors, corporate lobbyists. They're extremely wealthy. Somehow they make millions of dollars after they become public servants. I wonder how that happens. All of them, Republicans and Democrats. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. They live pretty, and they are told by their corporate donors and their lobbyists what to think. Since they're so divorced from the daily lives of the majority of Americans who are struggling, they have no idea. Which is why Danielle and AOC can come and people are like, that sounds authentic. Zoran is actually a privileged kid, but nonetheless, he talks to all these different people in their language. We mentioned this before, the campaign of Hannah Spencer, who won this surprise victory in Manchester, right? The Green Party, where Labour has dominated for 100 years. Her campaign was Hannah the Plumber, because she's a plumber. So she's this young woman
Yep.
in her like late 20s, white woman who is super middle class, and she's a plumber. And she goes, "I'm deciding to run." And like 30% of her community is Pakistani and Muslim. So what does she do? She releases ads in Urdu. What does she do? She goes and talks to them. What does she do? She listens to them. What are they concerned about? Among, amidst like, the economic downturn is also Gaza. She says, "I'm against genocide." What does she say? "I'm against Islamophobia." The far right campaign, much like, let's be honest, even the Democrats, sorry, the Labor Party, which is basically the Democratic, the version of the Democratic Party of the UK, moves center left, right? Refuses to embrace this type of economic populism, tells their own base, "Shut up. You voted for us anyway. You're going to vote for us now. You're not going to vote for Reform UK. They're Nazis. Bomb Palestine all you want. We love Israel. We're not going to actually talk to you in the way people talk. No, we're going to give you these flannel shirt, corporate slogans."
My
Hannah
God.
Spencer comes out of nowhere, wins, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you see parallels. That's all I'm saying, right? You don't want to go tit for tat, but you see how the wind is blowing. Even, I'll give an example. Why is Graham Plattner, even though, despite his tattoos and despite some of a controversial past, why is he crushing Janet Mills right now? He's crushing Janet Mills because he's like, "Hey, man, I'm like you. I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to keep it real. I'm not going to take corporate money. I'm not going to support the genocide. I'm going to go against the oligarchy." And meanwhile, the Democratic Party says, "Go for Janet Mills, who is competent, who is very good, but is as like molded in the DNC as much as possible." Danielle, and look at Maine. Mainers are like, "Nah, we'll go with this guy, even though he might have had a Nazi tattoo." Like, what more do you need to see? And they still fail, Danielle. They still fail, and the DNC in particular were like, "We'll crush any of our candidates that sound like normal human beings and actually have their ear to the ground and actually have their finger on the pulse of the people."
Yeah, it just I think that and again going back to what the driver said to me. He's like, "It's what you and I say all the time. It's painful, but it's necessary." Right? Because the complacency with which Americans have been able to operate, right? The distance from the devastation that the imperialism of America has caused around the world and is now coming home to roost here. It's like the blinders are off.
That's
Like,
right.
wait a minute, are they all in cahoots? Right? Like, why wouldn't Merrick Garland do his job? Like, as soon as he got in, as I said to him, I said, let me just be frank with you. Merrick Garland didn't even need to open up a new investigation. Robert Mueller had already given him the 10 ways in which Donald Trump had obstructed justice.
That's right.
Right? All he had to do was start from there, which wasn't from scratch, and then move into the other things that he did while he was in office that we would find out about later. But it's not as if he needed the 2 years in order. There had already been, while he was in office, here are the ways in which he has broken the law. Oh, but we don't indict a sitting president. Says fucking who? And why? Right? So now
Custom,
yeah,
civility.
civility. So now you understand that much of America, and also let's just be frank, much of the global law and order, international law, was nothing more than a quote unquote gentleman's handshake.
That's
It
what
was
it was.
nothing more than, look, we agree to follow these set of such and such norms, and then let's shake on it and then go in the back and have a bourbon. Now you have this entire party that showed up and said, "You know what? What happens if we just say no? No to the Constitution, no to your international law, no to your regulations, if we just say no." And then they realize, I mean, it would go against political norms, but nothing. Nothing will happen to you. There will be no international police that will come looking for you. There will be no threat of potentially going to jail, like, because, Democrats just don't have the backbone or the appetite for that. Nothing will happen except, maybe people talk about you bad. He's like, well, fuck it. I'm not going to heaven anyway. So let's get this going. Right? Like, that's what happened.
And I do want to say, you mentioned this, and I wish you took another lap with your cab driver about the Epstein class. We mentioned this. I talked about my own a cab experience, but with Virginia aunties last week during Eid. These suburban aunties radicalized, young people radicalized. And what really has done it, Danielle? I mean, it's a confluence of factors, but the Epstein class, because the Epstein class and the Epstein
Yep.
scandal, I think for many people was like the Rosetta Stone. Everyone had like a spidey sense, something's off, but you didn't have anything tangible, right? Then the Epstein scandal comes out, and you're like, aha, I wasn't wrong. This is what makes sense. I always knew, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, right? I didn't have anything there in reality to like anchor this, but aha, it's the Epstein class. It's a big club weighing in it. It's a cabal of Republicans and Democrats, of philanthropists and billionaires, Americans and Europeans and Israelis
Yep.
and Russians
Yep.
and anyone who's rich. It doesn't matter. It's all part of the big club. They all party with each other. They all rape with each other. They all cover each other's backs. All the institutions, anything that has the name of a billionaire on it, everything's corrupted. They're all working in tandem against us, and they're raping us. They're raping us of our future. They're raping the earth. They're raping our wealth, and they're literally raping our girls. And of course, they get away with it. And it just shatters. It shatters all your faith in the institutions. It shatters all your faith in the norms. It shatters all your faith in the rule of law. It makes sense. Of course, that's why Merrick Garland slow walked it. Of course, that's why they keep voting for Donald Trump's appointees, even though they say with one mouth that it's an existential threat. That's why Chuck Schumer is sitting there hugging it up with Marco Rubio. That's why Chuck Schumer is sitting there hugging it up with Benjamin Netanyahu. But look how they deal with AOC, and look how they deal with Mamdani. I get it. And then if you don't harness that rage and that energy where the people are, and I'm sorry, folks, the DNC has not. I know you all think vote blue no matter who. We'll get to it in a second, but the DNC has not, and I brought some receipts today. You have then people say, okay, I'll either go with the Tuckers, the Steve Bannons, the Alex Jones, the Candace Owens. And what does Candace Owens do? These people are very smart. They're terrible people, folks. Yes, they're terrible people, but they're also capitalist. What does
Yep.
Candace Owens do? I'm like you. I'm a mom. I just, it doesn't pass the sniff test. I don't know, but I know. Comes up with all these conspiracies, throws like 100 conspiracies out there. She needs just one to land. One lands, and then everyone says, see, she was right about that. And then you just money launder in
Yep.
some type of white Christian nationalism,
Yep.
anti-Semitism, racism, right? But what they're doing, folks, is if you notice, I was talking to the man you cheat on me with, Jared Yates. But we were talking about this, and he says, much like Nazi Germany, you know what they did?
Yeah.
They actually get people by moving to the left on economic issues.
Yep.
So they move to the left on economic issues, economic populism, and that becomes the Trojan horse by which they get everything else. So notice Tucker and Candace and all these people, they're moving to the left on the Epstein files. They're moving to the left when it comes
On
to the war.
AI.
They're moving to the left when it comes to AI. And what are they doing? They're capturing a lot of folks. And people ain't paying attention, Danielle. But your cab driver is. I wish the DNC would.
Because I'll tell you that whose names did he bring up? He goes, I don't understand, because even they're starting to get it. Tucker, Candace, Nick Fuentes. I mean, this guy was like on it. He knew all of them, and his job is riding around. And
That's
we
right.
have to and I just, again, while all of these things are happening, folks, while all of these things, because I believe the aunties, like you said, are being radicalized. My mom is being radicalized. Like, and you're thinking, oh, Hillary Clinton and others, they said, we got to get rid of that TikTok. It's the TikTok. No, it's not. It's y'all. It's your inaction to overt an absolute dysfunction, to pedophilia. I mean, what did the Olympic Committee do this week? The Olympic Committee found themselves, instead of, oh, I don't know, maybe finding a new place to host the 2028 Olympics because America has become wildly dangerous, they've decided to come together and ban trans athletes. Right?
Wow, I
That's
missed
what,
that.
oh, yes, that's what the Olympic Committee decided to do today. And the headline was Olympic Committee sides with Donald Trump on trans athletes. I'm sorry, didn't we just have the Winter Olympics? Can somebody name a trans athlete that competed in the Winter Olympics? There isn't fucking one.
Lindsey Graham.
You're talking about creating a policy, because now they're going to have new policy and procedure, Waj, for testing. So you're going to traumatize our athletes, right? For 0.0 to a zillion 1% of those that could possibly even get to the Olympic level. Like, but this is what you're doing. Just as Kansas said, give me all of the trans driver's licenses, right? Like, you voted for a fucking pedophile, right? Like, you voted for a man that has been accused credibly of pedophilia and abuse, but you think that it's the trans people that are driving in Kansas that are the fucking problem? So and I'm telling you, people see regular average day Americans. They look at the shit that Republicans are deciding to put their weight behind. They look at the shit that Democrats are deciding to put their weight behind, and they're like, you know what? No, nope, deuces, I'm out. Like, it's not it, because this is Donald Trump is so busy putting his name on a dollar that Americans don't even have their hands on, because we're headed into fucking stagflation and a global recession because of his war. But what is Donald Trump focused on? Not figuring out what to do, because he's brought us into a war that is causing economic chaos, a humanitarian crisis, and, oh, by the way, a climate disaster on top of the calamity that we're already living in. But this is what he's doing, right? Like this. Doug Burgum, fucking idiot, sitting down with Donald Trump. And also, can we just look at Marco Rubio's posture? Can we look at, like, what is going on with Rubio?
I mean, he's doing 4 jobs. That's what happens when you're the only Latino being that is allowed in the Trump administration, and you're essentially doing 4 jobs except the job you're supposed to do, right? He, last time I checked, is supposed to be Secretary of State, but apparently that's been outsourced to Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner, what the F is his role? Why is he negotiating with Iran and Saudi Arabia and Israel, right? Oh, yeah, to grift. So the Witkoff and Kushners, who've made billions of dollars in the past year, right? They're the ones actually doing the job that Rubio is supposed to be doing. Rubio, meanwhile, is doing everything else. And Rubio looks like, you ever see Game of Thrones? Rubio looks like Reek, the character of Reek, a man who is literally flayed, humiliated, castrated, and then made into a gimp through psychological torture. And then when Reek, the character, was given a chance to escape, he's such a Reek, Danielle, that he goes, no, and he stays and allows himself to be Reek and tortured for like another year, until, of course, spoiler alert, he actually gets some courage and escapes. But that's what it looked like, a willing Reek, a man who's completely broken, humiliated. And this is part and parcel of the authoritarian project, right? To break these people. And so he's willingly there. I don't feel bad for him at all. He's an intelligent man. He chose this. He chose to be Reek. That is not a man who is happy. That is not a man who's confident. That is a man who's willingly, voluntarily traded his soul in a Faustian bargain. And I wish the worst for Marco Rubio. Good Marco Rubio.
I think Marco Rubio has the worst. Right? Like, but here's I want to play this clip, because folks, I know I try not to play Donald Trump, but sometimes I need to, so that you can just hear for yourself.
To American refineries on the Gulf Coast, lowering the price of gas in America. So it's
forget that. When are they going to do the statue? The hell with you.
What's funny? I like all of the laughter. Doug Bergman is trying to say, oh, well, you know, we got this going on in Venezuela after we kidnapped the president and the first lady, after we upend that country, and we're not letting them, you know, decide for themselves. No one's sovereign anymore so long as Donald Trump is president. And, oh, when are the Venezuelans going to build? Forget about lowering the gas prices. Forget about that. When are they going to build a statue to me? And everyone laughs because something is funny.
It's a fake laugh too. Go back and look at Marco Rubio's face. Like, they're Reeks. They're Reeks. They're the gimp from Pulp Fiction. Even when given a chance to escape, they don't know any other way except to be servile little, turds at the bottom of Donald Trump's shoes. And I wish this for them. Good for them. Be humiliated, be mocked, but it comes at the expense of what? National security, people's lives. Venezuela, real quick, folks. Illegal kidnapping and coup.
Mhm.
We've just forgotten about it. He stole the oil, sells the oil, puts $500 million in a Qatar offshore account. We don't talk about it. Speaking about Venezuelans, they, and by they I mean the Trump administration, and specifically Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, have murdered over 120 Venezuelans without due process. We know at the very least there's one video where there's two fishermen hanging for their lives on the side of the boat, and allegedly Pete Hegseth said, do a double tap. No one's talking about any of that. Then they put in their puppet, Delcy Rodriguez, based upon the fact that there was no accountability for that illegal coup and kidnapping of Maduro. Donald Trump felt so emboldened that the reeks around him said, look how easy that was. Go and do Iran. According to the reports, that's what did it. He goes, that was so easy. Look at that. It was so swift. Everyone loved me. We did it. No one stopped us. We're on a, his exact quote.
We're on a roll.
We're on a roll. Okay. Benjamin Netanyahu, according to Reuters, was the last call that finally convinced him because he said, we'll take credit for killing Khamenei. And he goes, okay, let's do it. It'll be easy. And then I don't know if you just saw it today. It's been reported on MS Now. Can't make this up. Trump is getting a little bored with Iran, a Trump official said. Not that he regrets it or something. He's just bored and wants to move on. That's an exact quote from a few hours ago.
Yeah, and then there's this, because, you can't possibly not be the sleaziest, most disgusting person on the planet. I apologize in advance. Donald Trump makes and let me see if I have it, because I may not, makes an appearance via audio on Fox. Take a listen.
I think it is alarming that we have not been able to see or hear from any of the Iranian people. And I imagine that is because their internet is shut down. And I think there is some general worry about them. Obviously, their government treats them terribly and killed tens of thousands of them in January. Do you, again, like Kayleigh, I would never ask you to tell us something that is classified, but do you have any insight as to how they are doing? Do they have drinking water? Do they have food?
Right, I do.
It's upsetting.
I do. But first, do you remember when we had lunch years ago in the base of Trump Tower when it was a brand new building?
It was a long time ago, yes.
A long time ago, and you haven't changed.
Oh.
You have not changed. Now, I'm not allowed to say this. It's the end of my political career, but you may be even better looking, okay? So I don't know what you're doing. But I will not say that.
Has a lot
I will
to do
not
with
say that because that will end my political career. You're not allowed to say a woman's beautiful anymore.
More reek. Look at her face. Do you see that 1 second of her face where she was embarrassed, kind of disgusted, but she had to go along with the grift because the emperor is her horny rapist? And secondly, the fact that he just didn't care. Like literally, he did not. She tried. I will
give her half a percentage.
That was impressive. She's like, what about the people?
What about the people? Like, do they have clean drinking water? Do they have food? We haven't heard from any Iranians on the ground. And he's just like,
I want to have sex with you.
You remember that time when like you were probably 10 and I was, 50 years old and we were in Trump? Because honestly, somebody had said, look, and I'm, look, Donald Trump is what, 79? And I'm pretty sure that woman is not 79. And I just want you to think about like how young she was, right? Where she was in her career, where she had the opportunity to have lunch with Donald Trump. And we know what Donald Trump does when he's alone with women in Trump Tower, when he's alone with women in general. What happens. And so if you saw her face when he said that, it was as if she did not smile, folks. It was as if she had like a quick memory of that and then just had to go along for the get along. And for the women that are listening, you know what that face is, right? You know what that,
It's when your
Fake
boss
it.
kind of puts his arms around you in a gross
Yep.
way and gives you a
Yep.
massage.
And you can't, because it's your boss, right? And you're in public and it's uncomfortable. And I don't really want to be having this conversation, but that's the face. And
I
I
have a
just,
mortgage and I have a job.
Yep.
I mean, the Iranian people, folks, the United States killed 165 girls. A bomb fell on a school. Israel bombed the desalination plants, a war crime. Israel bombed the oil refineries of Tehran, a city of 10 million people. The people are literally breathing poisoned air. More than 1,400 people have been killed. I'm sure that number is going to rise. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, Israel has displaced 1 million people and has said we're going to occupy southern Lebanon. All right. We still haven't even talked about the other casualties here and there, right? Israel has some casualties. Tourists are stuck. People are afraid. And Donald Trump literally does not care. He so does not care that he can't even bother to pretend to answer the question. He quickly moves on to his little wet dream about this anchor and remembers something in his adult dementia brain about when he probably tried to sexually harass her, and she probably had to wiggle away, like many women. Thank you. It's okay. All right, bye.
Exactly. Waj, you did it perfectly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then, again, so here we are. We're still on Iran.
Everything's going great.
Waj I thought that the deadline was Friday. I thought that the deadline of Donald Trump telling the Iranian leadership that they need to open the strait or else. What's happened?
Inshallah has happened. Last week, Donald Trump imposed on Iran a 48-hour deadline and said, if you don't open the Strait of Hormuz, if you don't open the Strait of Hormuz, I'm going to bomb the power plants. Iran's like, bet? All right, go for it. And then he goes, we're going to do it. And as he's saying that, folks, we're run by the world's most incompetent people. As he's saying that, remember what he said earlier in the week? Negotiations are going great. And Iran's like, nope, no, they're not. We're not negotiating. Trust me, they are. Nope, you're lying. 48-hour deadline comes. Iran, are you going to do it now? Iran's like, nope. Okay, 1 more week. Okay, 10 more days, right? Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out because Trump realizes, and we realize, and Iran realizes, America is in over its head. Iran has America by the balls. Iran has America by the balls because Iran is choking the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is engaging in economic terror against the United States. And furthermore, Iran realizes that our allies are not coming to help us because our allies realize, oh my God, this war is so disruptive to our economy, to our supplies, to oil, to gas, to fertilizer. So Donald Trump, if you recall, last week we talked about this, Danielle. He's like, okay, we got all the allies. We have everybody, and we have Spain. And Spain's like, no, we don't. I talked to Spain.
Spain said, don't call on me.
Yeah.
Don't
Who
call
this?
on me.
What?
Who
this? Spain said, he lied. And then Spain said, no, we have not talked to Donald Trump. So no allies, economic chokehold, but because they have the Strait of Hormuz. Now they're sending thousands and thousands of more troops. It's unwinnable. They're digging down. And as we've said, Iran's strategy is a long-term strategy of gouging, much like Vietnam and Iraq. We'll bleed you. A cut here, a cut there, a cut here, a cut there. A war of attrition. We know you don't have the appetite. We've suffered. We know you can't suffer. So we'll keep suffering. You keep bombing. You keep committing war crimes. You keep displacing us. We'll fight to the last person. And guess what? You've actually kind of made us great again and helped us and our economy.
So here we go. Energy and folks, like literally, you cannot make this shit up. Energy industry in Iran, and energy industry insider in Iran tells me the following, and it is stunning. Before the war, Iran produced just shy of 1.1 million barrels of oil per day and sold it at $65 per barrel, minus an $18 discount, so i.e. for $47. Today, it produces 1.5 million barrels a day and sells it at $110 a barrel with only a $2 to $4 discount. And this does not include petrochemical sales that not only have increased, but are now being sold to a larger set of customers compared to before the war. Moreover, Iran is receiving payments through new mechanisms that bypass the UAE, which were set up after the June war. In essence, and this is really important to understand, Trump and Israel's war has ended up delivering Iran de facto sanctions relief.
Yep.
This means that Iran is all the less incentivized to end the war unless the agreements provide Iran with formal sanctions themselves. And it gets better. It gets better. Because again, Donald Trump is only receiving 2-minute highlight reels of shit being blown up because that is how much information his small mind can take in, that he thinks that he's winning the war. So I just gave you the economic layout, the lay of the land. So here is actually what has happened. And this was reported by the New York Times. This is quite stunning. The New York Times reports Iranian strikes have rendered many of the 13 U.S. bases in the region largely uninhabitable, forcing the dispersal of many of the roughly 40,000 troops stationed in the region, some to Europe, others to improvised sites, including hotels, effectively fighting the war remotely. The result, a war that is now much harder to prosecute, with the U.S. absolutely losing capability. Iran is even accusing the U.S. of using human shields, a disastrous, strategically self-defeating war of choice that is exposing real U.S. military vulnerabilities and far-reaching consequences. Look at this title, folks. Iran's attacks force U.S. troops to work remote. That's a real title, not of The Onion. And here it is.
You know, you in 4 weeks, folks. It's been about 4 weeks, and just to put a pin
4
on
weeks
it.
tomorrow.
Yeah, just to put a pin on what Danielle said. The United States and Israel engaged in an illegal war with Iran, assassinated an older dying Ayatollah Khamenei, replaced him with a more young, radicalized Khamenei whose family they killed during the month of Ramadan. So let me repeat. They killed the older dying Khamenei and replaced him with a younger, more radicalized Khamenei. Then we have right-wing reeks like Lindsey Graham and Randy Fine and Tommy Tuberville openly, explicitly calling this a religious war and using insane Islamophobia, because what could go wrong if Israel and the United States use cosplay crusader language during the month of Ramadan to kill Ayatollah Khamenei and a bunch of Muslims? I wonder. And then what happened in 4 weeks is the same country that we're bombing. Earlier this week, Scott Bessent said, we might be open to removing sanctions from Iran because we're so desperate in need of oil supplies. Iran, meanwhile, has increased its sales, is getting more money. Furthermore, who has benefited? Not the United States, which is running out of munitions, which is now weaker, which is now more hated. Our allies are turning away from us. The United States public is more and more disgusted. More and more soldiers are put at harm's risk. Our bases are put at harm's risk. Our Sunni allies in the region are put at harm's risk. So we're actually losing. But you know who's benefited? Russia. Russia's benefited. Who else has benefited? China. Where are allies going? China and Russia, because they seem like much more stable world powers. So, Danielle, literally, if Donald Trump had done nothing, which is what we've been saying for the past 10 years, if this mother effer just golfed for the first Trump administration and the second Trump administration, the world, the United States in particular, would be better off. But everything he touches dies and gets worse. And this war has happened on the heels of the existing failed trade war in which 90% of the tariffs were paid by Americans. And already before this stupid war, food prices went up. Inflation is up. So now oil prices have gone up. gas prices have gone up. And because of fertilizer, because it goes to the Strait of Hormuz, guess what? Food prices, which are already up, are going to keep climbing. And that is if we're lucky to have food at all, because we might even have a food shortage. Danielle, Trump makes everything great again, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, and don't worry about it because he's completely on top of it. He's completely on top of it.
This is
Just
literally
kidding.
from yesterday, folks.
Just kidding. Breaking in a high stakes meeting regarding the war in Iran, our commander in chief is falling asleep. And I'll put again. That's, I mean, like, this is where we are. And it's hard when you say, because tomorrow, folks, tomorrow will be exactly 1 month. 1 month of this unnecessary, illegal war and the havoc that has been caused in 1 month, because they're already saying, even if, even if the war were to stop tomorrow,
Yep.
the damage that has been done to the energy facilities in the Middle East, the damage that has been done, we're talking about years upon years of a rebuild. So
That's
the
right.
oil prices ain't coming down
Nope.
anytime soon, right? Like, even if the Strait of Hormuz is open tomorrow to the United States and its allies, we are a month behind when the fertilizer was supposed to reach the United States for planting, for a harvest in the fall. So if you think that food prices because of inflation were bad last year, just wait until what is going to happen come this summer and come this fall. This is good. I mean, this is like a slow rolling train wreck that could have been absolutely avoided. And again, I said this yesterday on the Danielle Moody Show, and I honestly don't care what people say. We would not be here if it was not for Israel. We would not be here if it was not for Netanyahu. For 40 years, this man was trying to poke the bear of the United States to get America into this war so that he can have his aspiration actualized of the greater Israel, of the fucking land grab that he is doing right now in South Lebanon and that he's been doing and conducting the genocide in Gaza. This is what Netanyahu wanted. He knew what he could get out of Donald Trump because guess what? Hillary Clinton told people a decade ago. The man is a fucking puppet. You do not want somebody that folds like a fucking chair every time somebody blows in his ear or drops a gold brick on his fucking desk.
And he's easily baited. She said it 10 years ago. You can easily bait this man with a tweet, or you can flatter him into an illegal, devastating war. And just to put a pin on it, 1973, when this happened, folks, because history rhymes and repeats, the United States of America still continues to believe they can bomb its way out of the Middle East to victory, even though it's failed repeatedly. OPEC, we all have seen the photos and the videos of the long miles at gas stations. Why did that happen? Because these Arab nations decided to punish the United States and Israel for, wait for it, another war in Palestine and the Middle East, right? The October War. We didn't recover from that for at least a decade, folks. I mean, it reset world relations for a decade. And then it happened again, 1979, Iranian Revolution, and then in the early 80s, the Iran-Iraq War, a second shock to the system. This is another shock to the system, folks. We've already seen UAE. My friends in the UAE and do business in the UAE, where Dubai is, they're like, this is not coming back anytime soon. It's completely shattered the myth of security that the UAE sold. We're not like Lebanon. We're not like Palestine. Come here, rich expats, make all the money you want. Prostitutes, 5-star luxury. Put your blinders on. Who cares about the slave labor? It's all good. I've been to Dubai. That's literally how a lot of people are, right? Just complete blinders on, right? But now they're sitting there saying this couldn't happen here. So people are freaked out. What does that do to investments? What does that do to our allies? And speak about allies real quick. Think about it. Qatar Kuwait, Bahrain, right? All these Sunni allies in the region have decided to host U.S. troops and U.S. bases because they believed it would provide them some sense of security. What security? They don't get the Iron Dome. Who gets the Iron Dome? Israel, right? So they're sitting there saying, holy crap, we invested in you thinking that this would benefit us, right? MBS and all these people, they're all pieces of shit, right? But we invest in you in the United States of America because we thought by selling out, you would actually benefit us and actually give us more money and give us security. There is no security. We can't rely upon you. You're not sending troops to protect us. What the hell? What will they do? You know what they're going to do if I'm them? Hey, China, we tried out the United States. You might be a more reliable partner.
Yep. Yep. Because why? Because why not? Because why not? And I'm just curious, Waj. We know where the polls have gone with regard to America's sentiments on Israel. Where are our leaders then? Those that are currently running for office. What is their stance? Like a
they're on it. They're on it.
Like a McMorrow, who, okay, this is Jew from the Jewish Insider. Michigan Democratic Senate candidate Mallory McMorrow slams Abdul El-Saad for campaigning with Hassan Piker, compares Piker to Nick Fuentes. McMorrow, quote, "That is not somebody that you should be campaigning with at a moment when there is clearly a lot of pain and trauma across the state." I'm sorry. What?
There's a lot going on here, folks. First and foremost, we heard last year that Democrats spent millions of dollars. I'm not making this up. Millions of dollars researching how to find the liberal Joe Rogan. For those who don't know Hassan Piker is kind of outspoken, brash, but extremely popular and influential commentator, progressive, hard left commentator, very critical of Israel, who had a huge Twitch audience and now has moved to the YouTubes. So they're like, all right, we want to find the liberal Joe Rogan, the people who can actually talk to young men. Hassan is that guy for progressives, right? He works out, he's into cars, he has brash humor, says kind of inflammatory things, but nonetheless, he's very influential. Abdul El-Sayed is Muslim American. He is Arab. He has been against AIPAC. He has been against the genocide. He is, again, wait for it, Muslim American. This will come in handy in a second. He's also been against ICE. He's been against the billionaires. He represents a massive threat to the Democratic establishment, much like AOC, much like Mamdani, all right? In Michigan right now, there's a three-way race, tight. It's within the margin of error. There's Mallory McMorrow, there's Abdul El-Sayed, and then there's Haley Stevens. Haley Stevens literally has been groomed by AIPAC. AIPAC kicked out Andy Levin, who is Jewish, because he wasn't AIPAC friendly enough. He's a great senator. It's like the Levin family, Jewish American family, but he wasn't like Zionist enough for them. So they replaced him with Haley Stevens, who's the corporate pro AIPAC, if you will, Democrat, right? So here's Abdul El-Sayed says, okay, I'm going to move to the left. And he's just doing a campaign stop with Hassan Piker and Summer Lee. Wait for it. And Summer Lee. Notice they only go after who? Abdul El-Sayed and Hassan Piker. Mm-hmm. They didn't mention, wait for it, Summer Lee. Mm-hmm. Danielle, your take on this, because folks, when we talk about Israel, when we talk about AIPAC, when we talk about corporate money, you've seen it again and again and again. Real quick recap for those who haven't paid attention. 2024, Danielle, myself, so many others who wanted Kamala Harris to win. We said, you have to separate yourself, Kamala Harris, from Joe Biden and his complicity in the genocide. It isn't just Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians. The entire world has been radicalized, not by TikTok, but because they've seen a genocide live on their phones. What did the DNC say? Shut your mouth. You're going to vote for us anyway. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump. The bar is so low, it's in hell, Danielle. Can you have a Palestinian speaker speak? No, shut your mouth. We said, just wait. One of the main reasons why 18 million Democrats stayed at home would probably be Gaza. YouGov poll comes out. What does it say, Danielle? Gaza. DNC, they promised to release the audit of how they effed up the election by moving to the center and to the right and making left to Liz Cheney and kicking their own base in the face. What happens? Ken Martin says, oh, Trump's so bad we're winning elections. I'm going to renege on my promise. I ain't going to send out that audit. Leak comes out in Axios. Hey, there's an audit. Guess what was one of the major reasons why people stayed at home? Gaza. As Danielle said, when Hillary Clinton just a couple of months ago repeated the talking point that it was TikTok, do you know where Hillary Clinton said this, folks? Miriam Adelson, who is the second largest donor to Trump and Republicans, the insane pro-settler, pro-genocidal, pro-Israel fanatic, who's given hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump and Republicans. She has a conference. Every year, the conference is usually in Israel. For the first time ever, I think it was in the fall, she did it in New York. Who does she invite to speak? Hillary Clinton, the 26th Democratic presidential candidate. You would think Hillary Clinton would say, why would I ever go to Miriam Adelson, who literally funds Donald Trump and House Republicans? Hillary Clinton, Danielle, said, sure. She goes there and she repeats the talking point. It wasn't, I don't know, the mother effing genocide. It was TikTok. Who then takes over TikTok? Larry Ellison, the single largest donor to the Friends of Israel, a pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-Israel fanatic, whose son, David Ellison, has already gobbled up Paramount and CBS, and now they're making the bid for Warner Brothers. It's been 2 years. You've seen the poll. We've talked about the polls, Gallup poll, NBC poll. The overwhelming majority of Democrats are done supporting Israel and the apartheid and the genocide. A majority of Americans, Danielle, has said we don't want any part of this.
I mean, look.
So, it's all going to make sense now. Danielle, take it away.
I'm just going to say, because I interviewed many times Abdul El-Sayed before he ran for the Senate this time around. On my former show, Woke AF, used to have him on regularly. And the fact is that this is what I cannot stand. And this is why I said yesterday, I told the truth about my trip to Israel and Palestine. I told the truth about what happened when I came back, and how friends and foes alike said, Danielle, do not, after the one piece that I wrote, don't write anymore about the conflict, because you will be canceled, right? They will label you an anti-Semite. You will be canceled. You see here, folks, in this graph, right? It shows the changing views that are happening, right? On this issue. Why? Not because of TikTok, but because people can see with their own fucking eyes what is happening. And they start to ask themselves, why is it that my tax dollars are going to fund free healthcare for Israelis and I have to go get a GoFundMe at home? Why is it that the Israelis can afford free higher education and I got to go into 7 figures worth of debt, and it's my tax dollars that are doing that? How is it that we have money to bomb and murder and maim and kill tens of thousands, at least 100,000 plus Palestinian men, women, and children? I am watching videos of people being marched out of their homes in the West Bank at gunpoint, right as the IDF takes over their home. We're watching heroes be made of rapists that are in the IDF, right, that were in jail. And then all of a sudden, people decided to, let me form campaigns in order to get these men out. And then they're celebrated as heroes. There was a rape. There was a rape campaign that they did against the women and children in Palestine. Most recently, they held a 1-year-old little boy fucking hostage and tortured him so that they could get to his father. Folks, this is not made up shit. This is accounted for. This is accounted for. Right? So you want to talk about fucking radicalization? It did not come from TikTok. It came from giving these motherfuckers all of our money without any regulation, without any hesitation whatsoever, and then thinking that they're going to do good with it. I saw this place with my own goddamn eyes. It was an apartheid state. It is an apartheid state. And it's worse than that. It is a murderous, genocidal fucking state. And so, when you see now Democrats absolutely coming out and not wavering in their opinion about Israel, because for whatever reason, that is what pumps their pockets. Whenever you see that, I am telling you, do not vote for these fucking people that take AIPAC money, that take AIPAC adjacent money. Do not vote for these people who want to make anyone who is critical of a nation state, not a fucking religion, a nation state that is murderous, to turn you into an anti-Semite. I'm telling you, the tide is fucking changing. This is their last grasp and straw. And the world is waking up to what they've been allowed to do unabated, right? Unabated for decades upon decades upon decades. You cannot justify the torture of a 1-year-old fucking boy to me. You cannot. And I'm telling you, just recently, Blinken, right? Blinken was asked, what about the children of Palestine that have been murdered? What about the children? And do you know what this motherfucker said? He said, well, there were a lot of Israeli children that were killed too.
That's right.
He could not even when asked about dead Palestinian children, couldn't utter any sense of sorrow, any sense of grief.
Nope.
And I am sick to fucking death of it. And all of you should be as well, because it is inexcusable that these people continue to want to call out, oh, look at these people. Look at their criticisms. Their criticism cannot stand. I'm a political analyst. I am criticizing the politics that have been allowed to go on unquestioned, unabated, and unregulated. And they have turned themselves into the very people that they were supposed to be protecting themselves from. And it is bullshit, and it needs to be called out.
And when Danielle's cooking, just pass her some oil. This is who the Democratic establishment is. They were completely complicit in the genocide. It was Joe Biden, Blinken, Kirby, McGurk. They gave Netanyahu, a war criminal, a green light. Last summer, Schumer took a photo with Benjamin Netanyahu. He wasn't the only one. Cory Booker was there. Also some centrist Democrats. In the first weekend of February, just a month and a half ago, Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, and he hasn't walked back these comments, openly said at a meeting in New York, my number one priority as Senate minority leader is to make sure Israel gets all the aid that it needs. The same Israel that is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people, the same Israel that has now displaced 1 million Lebanese people, the same Israel that is occupying southern Lebanon, the same Israel where settlers are literally burning villages as we speak in the West Bank, the same Israel that deliberately shoots children in the head, in skulls, the same Israel that deliberately castrates men and shoots them in the groin, the same Israel where Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet of genocidal sociopaths are openly saying, yeah, we're going to take everything, river to the sea, and then some. And we had Democrats the entire way, rah, rah, rah. We had Democrats the entire way say nothing when they went after pro-Palestinian activists like Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeza Ostrich. We had Democrats the entire time say, you know what? It isn't a genocide. It's TikTok. We have Democrats to this day who don't even call it a genocide. And then it is not lost upon me that Hassan Piker, whether you like him or not, I don't care. I don't know the guy. You know who was also campaigned with Hassan Piker? AOC. Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna. Summer Lee's there as well. Danielle, who did Mallory McMorrow decide to single out? Abdul al-Sayed, the Muslim and the Arab. Can you see? I think I wrote something yesterday. I gave you a
Hold 1 second. Let me get to
I bring some receipts, folks. My Islamophobia radar was a tingling because it is not lost upon me what the unsubtlety, because they just did this to Zoran Mamdani. This just happened 6 months ago to Zoran Mamdani. So I said, notice the Democratic establishment was fine with white knight Gavin Newsom inviting Charlie Kirk, a man who said, oh, I don't know, black people were better off during segregation. The Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Steve Bannon, a criminal who literally is now talking about sending ICE to terrorize people during the upcoming elections. And Ben Shapiro, who literally groomed Candace Owens and created this cabal of MAGA radicalized people and said some of the most racist ish against Palestinians. Gavin Newsom invited them to his podcast. We had a warm, friendly conversation and even agreed with them a few times. I didn't hear anything from the DNC. They made love to Liz Cheney, who voted for Donald Trump 93% of the time. They still want to campaign with Liz Cheney, all right? Also, who's the other guy? Bill Maher, who has been racist against Muslims and Arabs for 2 decades, right? No problem. That's perfectly fine. Also, I want to remind you all, 2 weeks ago, Randy Fine, a Republican, basically said he's been going on his campaign, and he says mainstream Muslims should be destroyed.
Yep.
Andy Biggs said Muslims need to be kicked out of America. Senator Tommy Tuberville compared Zoran Mamdani to the 19 foreign hijackers, had photos of them juxtaposed, and said, "We've let the enemies inside the gate," which is a Nazi term. Danielle, have any of them been censured?
Not one of them.
Can you tell me who Mallory McMorrow and Democrats have decided to focus on right now?
Muslim candidates, right? Like, this is, I just like, look, because here is again, Representative Brad Schneider criticized Abdul al-Sayed's event with Hassan Piker and Summer Lee, warning Democrats about platforming Hassan. Hassan's clips are often taken out of context, and he did apologize for his 2019 9/11 comments. On the other hand, as Waj said, Randy Fine has said the choice between dogs and Muslims is easy, and saying dogs are better. Schneider's outrage appears selective. He voted with Republicans to censure Rashida Tlaib and to remove Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee for much, much less, yet has stayed silent on his religious extremist colleague, Randy Fine. Does he endorse these hateful comments against Muslims? Hard to tell. Take a wild guess which lobby has given Schneider $6 million, right? So again, here he is. These people will come out full chest against anyone who criticizes Israel. And they will say absolutely fucking nothing. Just be silent. And this goes from Schneider on to Schumer to Jeffries and the rest of them.
Show them Newsom.
So
the White Knight.
Oh, here is Newsom. Because I want you all to remember this. I don't believe we'll get to 2028, but just say that we do. And this motherfucker is one of the potential candidates. I want you to burn this into your memory. In addition to pledging his allegiance to Israel in this Politico interview, Gavin Newsom also said the U.S. should have mandatory military service. Waj?
Also, notice Gavin Newsom flip-flopped. Last week, he said, "Oh, Israel's an apartheid state." Donors called up, and now in that interview from this week, he said, "I revere Israel. I was just quoting Thomas Friedman. I believe in nothing. I'm Gavin Newsom. I believe the presidency is my birthright. I'll throw the homeless people under the bus. I'll throw transgender people under the bus. I'll actually agree with Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. I'm much more comfortable being friendly with them than I am with Mamdani or with Hassan Piker or with Abdul al-Sayed." Speaking about Bill Maher, I want to mention it again. Bill Maher is now getting the Kennedy Center honors. Bill Maher has been a racist piece of shit.
Where is it happening? In the parking lot? Because
who's going to show up to that
building
shit?
Was closed.
Who's going to show up to that shit? We have been saying for 2 decades, all the Democrats that have gone, there's only a handful of voices who ever called out Bill Maher for his anti-Arab, anti-Muslim bullshit. Rula Jabril, she was not invited back. Reza Aslan, he was not invited back. Glenn Greenwald, who's a freak, but he did his job. He wasn't invited back. And Ben Affleck. All the rest of them, Danielle, guess what? Sat there and smiled. It's not lost upon me. It is not lost upon a young generation of voters. You might think, Waj, it's just Muslims and Arabs. No one else cares. Did this work with Zoran Mamdani, Danielle? They just did it to Zoran. Did it work? You tell me. You're in New York.
No. I mean, look, here's the thing. They were trying to smear him from out the gate. Chuck Schumer put all of his weight and his power behind who? A alleged sexual offender in Andrew Cuomo. Instead of putting your weight and power behind a rising star, you decided to go with the same old, the man that sold out New York during COVID, which we would find out after had been accused of sexually harassing his staff, Democrats pushed him out so that he could not potentially run again, only to embrace him so that they could try and knock out the young up-and-coming Muslim mayor. It is extraordinary. And so when we continue to say it's a big old club and it's a revolving door of fuckery. It is a revolving door. And for anyone that tells the truth, that says it like it is, that says, you know what? I'm not taking AIPAC money. You know what? I'm not taking this fucking trip. You know what? Like, what you all are doing is wrong. It's disgusting. It's grotesque. It's inhumane. The AIPAC lobby spends millions upon millions of dollars to shut these people down, to shut these voices down. And now they can't even do it in their own name. Now they got to create shell companies. They got to create shell packs.
Elect Chicago women.
Yeah, with pro-Democrat X, Y, and Z, and get Hakeem Jeffries, their bag man, to go deliver the goods because they can't even do it in their own fucking name. That's what a stench they have on them now. So they gotta lie.
And the fact is, folks, we've talked about it a lot. You just saw the Illinois primaries. $92 million were spent in the Illinois primaries by AI, crypto, and AIPAC. AIPAC spent money in the New Jersey 11th race against Tom Malinowski, a center-left Zionist Democrat. They spent money against Nida Alam in the North Carolina race. She lost by 0.8 points. And still, even though that money is funneled through right-wing billionaires, Hakeem Jeffries, because I asked him about it, says, I will continue taking money from where I continue taking money. And he launders that money to help these candidates. Even as AIPAC, funded by right-wing billionaires, is going against Democrats, they still refuse to stop sucking at the teat. And bringing it back full circle, I want to remind you all, at this event with Abdul Said and Hassan Piker, there's also Summer Lee. Did Mallory McMorrow mention Summer Lee?
Nope.
Who has also campaigned with, in part, or appeared with Hassan Piker, AOC, Bernie Sanders. Did you hear anything?
Nope.
Ro Khanna. Anything?
Nope.
Who have they laser focused on this week, Daniel?
The Muslim candidate.
It is not lost upon me, and breaking news.
Oh, dear God.
All this adds up. New York Times. Assassination plot targeting New York City Palestinian activist is disrupted. Law enforcement officials did not identify a suspect or motive, but told Nardine Kiswani, co-founder of the pro-Palestinian group Within Our Lifetime, that she had been targeted. This came out an hour ago in the New York Times.
You know, folks, look, all of it is adding up. The veil is being lifted. People are seeing this country and who they are bought and paid by. Our politicians haven't been working for us for a very long time. And now it is a tie between the AIPAC lobby and their shell companies, the AI companies and their shell companies, right? The Nation, I went over it on the Danielle Moody Show on Wednesday, put up an article that AI is the new AIPAC, and they are using the same mechanisms, the Meta, right? Anthropic, OpenAI, using the same mechanisms that AIPAC uses by creating these non-AI sounding PACs, Democracy for the People, and funneling their money through there so that they can take down candidates that want to regulate AI. I'm telling you, folks, if you're waiting on a free and fair election, I will tell you that ship sailed, because that is not what is coming up in November. It is not going to be free. It is not going to be fair. It is going to be rigged by so many outside forces and inside forces. Pay attention.
Can I spill some tea real quick?
Please.
Because F all these people now. Mallory McMorrow has come on the show. Mm-hmm. Mallory McMorrow used to come on the Left Hook. Mallory McMorrow and I used to exchange DMs. She announces she's running for Senate. Doesn't respond to me. I say, okay. She publishes a book, and her agent reaches out to me and says, would you like to have Mallory on? I say, sure. Agent comes like, oh, sorry, no. I'm like, interesting. I see her strategy. That's fine. No big deal. My feelings aren't hurt, right? When does Mallory reach out to me? I just wanted to double check. I'm looking at my Twitter DMs. September 27th, 2025. Danielle, can you please ask me why?
Wait, say the date again.
September 27th, 2025. After months of me trying to get her on the show, talking to her, just firewall, didn't talk to me. Message after message after message after message. In the spring of last year, hey, can you come on? Hey, nothing. All of a sudden, on her own, she messages me September 27th. Why? Why do you think she did?
Primary?
Because someone who I trusted, a pro-Palestinian activist, reshares an article written about Mallory McMorrow, alleging that she has taken AIPAC money and AIPAC support. Within 2 minutes of me retweeting that, within 2 minutes, I get a message from Mallory McMorrow. And she says, hey, saw you repost that Washington Examiner piece. Just so you know, I've never taken AIPAC support. Don't plan to. I'm not seeking their endorsement. And yes, my husband interned there close to 30 years ago. He'll be the first to tell you how angry he is and how different of an organization it is now than it was then. But if I were chasing every hit piece on me, I'd be playing nothing but whack-a-mole. The quote, her husband is Jewish and interned for AIPAC, gets borderline ugly real fast, and he's getting a lot of anti-Semitic shit for this. My response, thanks for telling me. I trust the individual who posted it, and I didn't know it was an Examiner piece. Those people are terrible. I know for your Senate run, you're probably stuck regarding AIPAC and pressure. If you ever want to join again to talk to me about all this in the Senate run, let me know. I removed the reshare. I again asked her, can you come back? And she says, let me get through the end of the quarter and the pending budget shutdown. We averted it on the state level, thank God. But I won't count it done until the ink is dry and the governor signs it. But I'll have my team reach out to set something up. Now, speaking about Eric Swalwell, I don't care about these people anymore. This is from last week, Thursday, March 19th. Someone tweets, very disappointing to see that Eric Swalwell has taken money from BOEM, from AIPAC, from this and from that, right? I'm forgetting the tweet. I'll find the tweet. And it was pretty damning. It went viral. Pro-Israel, pro-AIPAC, pro-crypto, pro-this, right? So I said, wow, this is really disappointing if true. Tweeted it. Guess who gets a direct message from Eric Swalwell? Appreciate your tweet. Completely false. And you can reach out to me directly anytime. Appreciate all you do. Gives me his personal phone number. I've been busy. I haven't reached out to them. Danielle.
I mean, look, folks, we're lucky to see Waj multiple times a week, but we have to also remember how big of a platform Wajahat has.
I'm nobody. Nobody.
No, that is not true, because these people that are running for office, these members would not try and slide into your DMs to get the good Muslim stamp of approval if they did not think that it went far. And so that's what they're doing. And here's the thing. We'll wrap up with this. This is why Waj and I are independent, right? Waj is a bigger rock star than I am, right? You could be swayed with money and access all the time, just like so many people have. Oh, Waj, if you take down that tweet, if you just don't do this thing, I'll give you a one-on-one interview, but it'll be a softball bullshit interview. Please don't ask me anything, but you know what? The doors will be wide open and we could do each other a favor, right? That's how it starts. And for those that chase fame, that chase wealth instead of the truth, that's what ends up happening to them, is that they get caught up with the outreach, the slide into the DM move. And then all of a sudden you think you're chummy. And then you get to have them on your show and you get to do X, Y, and Z. And that is what happens. But when you are 10 toes down, as Waj is, when you will ask the hard questions, when you will say the truth, even though it will cost you, the door doesn't seem to be as open.
And folks, I have a policy. I'll never publicly share private messages and this and that. And I only shared with you, with Eric and Mallory, some of the stuff they wrote. I think it actually made them look better. But I just want to show you the shift. She wrote that to me in September. What changed? What changed? October, November, December, January, February, March. 6 months ago, she wrote that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eric Swalwell, he gave me, I won't share his number, but I'll call him. Let's see if he'll come on Democracy-ish. If he truly means it, he reached out to me. And I think they have to answer for this, right? But it's really interesting to me. They pay attention. They pay attention to the narratives that are about them. They're paying attention to this. And they realize, going back full circle, Danielle, that they can't avoid the stench, that we, the people, will not back down. That if you're taking money from AI and crypto and APAC, you're going to have to friggin' respond to it. And I think with Mallory McMurrow, the way she turned heel yesterday, she made a choice to go out and attack Abdul El-Sayed. And Abdul El-Sayed and her were kind of doing a detente, right? They're like, all right, let's work together. Let's go against Haley Stevens. If you win, I win, whatever. But she made a choice. And this is the same week where, I don't know if you saw, Daniel, real quick, but reports are coming out that allegedly APAC really likes her APAC paper and says that she's a good candidate. That came out this week as well. And then this happens. And then she attacks only Abdul Sayed, but not Summer Lee. I cannot abide by that, Daniel.
Look, these people continue to show us who they are. We just have to choose to look, right? We have to choose to pay attention because they're telling us. Right. And it's us, the voters, that make these, concessions. Oh, but they tell us they're the only ones that could beat Trump. They're the only ones that can beat MAGA. And they set up this, if you don't do it, then you might as well just vote for Donald Trump. No, I'm tired of the crumbs. I'm tired of settling for people that will sell me out as soon as they have the opportunity. And each and every one of these people that we named today are sellouts, right? They talk a tough game. Cory Booker will get on the House floor and do a fucking, tap dance in order to go sell a book. Couldn't bother showing up to vote against Mark McMullen's fucking Mark Wayne Mullins confirmation. He wasn't there. He was on his book tour. Right? Talking about his big stand on the fucking floor.
Yep.
I'm like, are you an influencer or are you a fucking senator? Pick one, because you can't be both. And this is who these people have been. They have chosen the influencer route as opposed to the political route. And we have to be the ones that can see the difference. The people fell for Gavin Newsom's Twitter account. Gavin Newsom ain't running that Twitter account. He's got two probably smart, two black and brown women and men, right? Young people, young white cats running his stuff. You fall in love with the social media poster, not with the candidate. Because what's said on social media that's catty and funny and ha 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 is not the same shit that Gavin Newsom says when he sits down on these right-wing shows. And you have got to understand the difference.
One quick breaking news, which is less hellish. Well, two pieces. I want to, this one, another Republican, Sam Graves, chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, has said he will retire after 3 decades, right before the midterms. That's not good. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has removed 2 black and 2 female officers from a promotion list. Real quick, I know you got to go, but I want to read Olivia Troy's comment on this. Pete Hegseth removed 4 decorated Army officers, 2 black, 2 women, from a promotion list. The Army Secretary refused, calling their records exemplary. Hegseth overrode it, possibly illegally. They gave decades to this country. He erased them and called it a meritocracy. This is white Christian nationalism. That's her. Also, in the article, the New York Times article, quote, Mr. Beria, Hegseth's chief of staff, told Mr. Driscoll, the Army Secretary, that President Trump would not want to stand next to a black female officer at military events, the officials said. This came out 2 hours ago.
Just on top of all of the things that he has done, he has also removed the ranking, the ranking, I guess, what is it? Uniforms from the chaplains, right? Where they can only now wear their religious affiliation on their uniforms. He is also outright doing these prayer meetings that are broadcast throughout the Pentagon, where this week, and it was reported by the AP, that he prayed for the overwhelming violence against his enemies. The AP reported that this week. This is a white Christian nationalist takeover of our military, and it started on day one
Yep.
of the Trump administration, and it's been accelerating over the last year plus.
And this is why we're in Iran. And this is why we continue helping Israel, because Mike Huckabee and other Christian Zionists and cosplay crusaders believe that Israel needs to control, Jews need to control Jerusalem as a necessary precondition for the return of Christ. And then the first group that Jesus kills in their narrative are the Jews. We're all the victims of cosplay crusaders.
All of it. Folks, before we get out of here, Waj, promote yourself. What are you doing for the rest of the day? Because God knows you don't take a break.
I'm so tired. I'm tired. I'm really tired, but it's okay. First world problems. The world is tired. At 2:00, we have Deborah Shushan, who is really great. She was formerly of J Street. She's become like more and more radicalized. She's a scholar on these issues. She's at Georgetown. She joins me often to talk about the Israel and Palestine of it all. But I want to ask her all these questions. The fact that young people are being radicalized, the fact that Goyim is now being mainstream, the fact that AIPAC is toxic, the fact that people are blaming Israel. I haven't talked to her in this last 4 weeks. That'll be at 2 p.m. And then another resource who is a truth teller and who is a practicing, serious Jew and who cares deeply about Jews and Muslims and Palestinians, but has been, if you will, ostracized from his own communities, Peter Beinart. Peter Beinart is coming on at 3 p.m. So I think that will be some really great conversation. I want to unpack what Danielle and I talked about in the last 30 minutes with them.
I love it so much. Folks, again, this is independent media. It is people powered. I want to thank all of the super stickers and super thanks. Susan, who gave multiple times today, is also our fantastic moderator.
Awesome.
Scott, thank you so much for your generosity. It goes a long way. PJ, thank you so much. Appreciate you. This was Susan again, coming in big. Sayabunga with $4. Every dollar counts. And we appreciate you. Eternal Energy, as always, appreciate you. Creatively Mixed, thank you so much. My friends call me Ghost. Thank you so much, friend. Design Cloth from Canada. Make room for us. Susan again. Soka for gifting a membership. Mona for $1.99. Corinne for $4. Susan again. DJ for $5. And Jimmy for $5. Thank you so very much. Folks, Waj and I are both running specials on our Substacks. Waj's special is thelefthook.substack.com/special. It is a forever special. If you cannot become a paid subscriber, folks, we keep our content free for a reason. But if you have a few bucks, do consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack and here on YouTube. Mine is at daniellemoody.substack.com/damn sale and is running until the end of this month. Folks, we will be back. Democracy-ish will be back on Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern. My goodness, this show was super stacked. Thank you for sticking with us.
We didn't even get to...
we missed 2 stories, folks.
We only got to 50%.
We only got to 50%, but thank you for giving us 90 minutes of your time. Please take care of yourselves and each other. And please, oh, please, oh, please, don't be a fascist. Do something for yourselves this weekend. Connect with friends, community, touch grass and plants. And we will see you back here on Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern.